Hello, my name is Katie Earle. I'm the coordinator of the University Express program, and I work for the Erie County Department of Senior Services. And I'll be interviewing Richard Derwald today, aka Mr. Fitness. So we'll hear about his life, his accomplishments, and what he's looking forward to. We hope you have fun with us. We're here today for an interview with Richard Derwald, aka Mr. Fitness. Hey, Richard.
Hi, Katie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Well, thank you for doing this with us today and taking us through all of your life and everything you've done and everything you're looking to accomplish in the future.
I hope that this is as good. The people that are watching, just want to let you know that if this isn't any good, it's her fault because she asked me to do a little overview of my life. So that's what we're trying to do here. But anyway, Katie, I hope it works out the way we hope it will.
I think it will, and I'll take responsibility for most of it, only the good things.
Good.
So we have some things here, and I'm going to get started. So take us all the way back. I want to hear about your parents. Let's start there.
Yeah, that's really going back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's before I was born. Actually, I'm the son of immigrants. And I'm showing here, I got my mother's citizenship papers. She was from County Mayo, Ireland. And next, I have my dad's citizenship papers, and he was from Hanover, Germany. And both came over in the, my mom, I believe, came over in the late 20s, and my dad came over in the early 30s, which was a good time to leave Germany, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And how did they meet?
They actually met, at a German dance.
And then when were you born?
February 15th, 1935. And there I am with my mother. Why? Yeah, that's her. Just going back, and I was, no, it's all right, Kay, but the question I never asked her is why she put a dress on me. But anyway, that's okay. We're just gonna move up ahead to that picture of my mom, if you would. Mm-hmm. She was a really wonderful mother. She had been married before she met my dad. She married a fella from Ireland, and I think he was from everything I've heard about it, obviously I wasn't there, she had 2 children with him though, and he was a self-styled tough guy. And I think probably the only person he really got tough with was my mother. She went through a very bad time with this guy. And he tried to pull some of those same things out on the street and, you know, in clubs and bars, and it didn't work out too well for him. He got in an altercation with somebody and had to send him to the hospital, where he subsequently died. And so there was my mother, a young girl from Ireland, 2 very young children. Oh, I'm sorry that I missed part of it too. He also insisted after they were married that they go to Chicago, because he figured that's where he would fit in better. Chicago, I don't have to explain that any more than this, but it didn't work out well for him at all. So my mom got on the bus, I think, or the train, and brought the children back to Buffalo, and she spent some time then with her uncle, which would be my great uncle. The children, I mean, what do you do with the children? She had no income, and really my mother had a lot of wonderful human skills. Just, I love her to this day. I think she's practically a saint, but she didn't have any marketable skills back for that time. And she lived with my uncle, who was doing really well. He owned some properties. I think he owned a building that housed the bakery. He owned a gas station, and he owned a bar. So he was doing just great. And so her uncle asked my mom, could he adopt her son, Christopher? And my mom didn't want to let the child go, but she knew he was prosperous and well off. So he took Chris. But for some reason, he wanted a boy only. My mom had to make a living. So my sister Rita wound up in an orphanage. Ironically, it was St. Rita's orphanage.
Really?
Yes. And that's when she went to work It was domestic work. And she met a lady there who apparently, I don't even know what ethnic background she was, but she wanted to go to a dance at the Buffalo Turners on High Street. And something a lot of people don't know is the Buffalo Turners and gymnastics really, I believe, were very popular in Germany, doing gymnastics and different types of things. So the Buffalo Turners, which was a gymnastic organization, had a dance. And they went there, and as you might guess, a lot of people there were German immigrants who had their children in gymnastics. And my dad was there, and she met my father, and they got married. So that all worked out well. One thing that did not work is I shouldn't say that. I said one thing that didn't work out well at the beginning was the fact that my father's sisters didn't like the idea of my dad being married to a woman who already had 2 children. Because my father was new over here too, and he was very good at communications, electronic communications, and they wanted him to build a career. And he wasn't over here that long, and he married a widow who still had my sister Rita. He immediately adopted Rita. They were married, and that was working out well. But my dad, I think, and I know my mother, wanted to have a child between the 2 of them. And actually my aunts really tried to dissuade my mother from having any more children. But being a good Irish Catholic girl, here I am.
Well, thankfully for that, Richard.
I'm not sure that's the majority opinion, but thank you for saying that.
I felt obligated to. I asked you to do the interview. I have to pump you up a bit here.
Thank you.
Now, tell me a little bit about your childhood home.
The photo you see there is the house as it stands today, and fortunately that was still on the internet, because the last time I went by it, there was nothing standing there. It was a bad fire. And so it became one of those, I believe on the east side they called them zombie homes. So it was all boarded up, and that's really where I lived until 1961. Oh. Yeah, from the time I was born until 1961, and it was a mixed neighborhood at the time. Demographically, it was Caucasian of no special ethnic background and African American, and I grew up in a mixed neighborhood, which was good. In fact, by the time we hit the late 50s, our family were in the minority group. But it all worked out fine.
Yeah.
It worked out very, very well. Maybe I think I benefited by that.
I could see that.
Yes.
What was one of your favorite things to do growing up there?
This may differ with a lot of people who, I have to say this, we never had a car, so I can't talk about the days at the beach or our week vacation. I can't. The only thing that I really remember was one winter. Sisters Hospital was located then around Delavan, Maine, which touched over to Florida. Okay. Florida Street is where I lived. And they had coal furnaces, and they dumped this big pile of coal, and I think they ordered too much coal. And it was over in a side lot. And when winter came, and it was a long winter, lots of snow, lots of ice, this big mountain. I was young and I was small, so it seemed like a real mountain. I don't know how tall it really was, but that was our sled. That was our sliding down the hill experience. I don't know why, but I just remember that vividly. And I remember that winter. Although I will say, generally speaking, I really can't honestly say that, maybe this doesn't make for a good interview, but I can't remember being unhappy as a child. I always thought we were doing great and doing fine. Yeah. In perspective and in retrospect, I later found out that we weren't doing quite as fine as I thought we were doing. But anyway, it was a good childhood, and we had that big hill of coal.
Well, I think that those are really fun memories, and it speaks to how much love there must have been in your household.
There was. There really was. hardly ever heard my mom and dad argue.
Yeah. And so I want to hear about your dad.
Well, I got some pictures here. My dad was not a radio; he was a real person. But what you're looking at there is, and we had one. We had a big Zenith radio, and if you look at old pictures going back to the 40s or the 30s, just like a TV now might be a centerpiece for a lot of homes, we had these big console radios that all the big companies made. GE made the radios, and different companies. We had Zenith. You would sit by there, and even the radio could transport you to another place, because what you had is your mind. It would put pictures in your mind. I listened to the Lone Ranger or the Sky King and some of the mystery shows that were on. It was really exhilarating to listen to all of this. No way of knowing what we have here today is just incredible. The middle picture is my dad. My dad did not go to college. However, in Germany, a system, by the way, they're talking about now, today, here, you may know that, trade schools. He went to a trade school, and his specialty, and the person whose name is Chuck, who's doing this right now, might be interested in this, in the fact that he took electronic communication. And he was very good at it. And when he got over here, he brought a lot of the books that were written in German and learned them. And one of his friends from Germany got a job at a plant called Colonial Radio. They had to expand their R&D department because they were going to work on portable radios that you could pick up and carry around the house. And this was really big. They hired my dad. Yes. And he really was doing quite well, and things were on the upswing. I don't remember it exactly because I was still pretty young, probably 4 or 5 years old. But I do know that there was a lot of joy around the house because he was working for a big company. And then, of course, we had the advent of Pearl Harbor. My father and his friends, who were also German nationals. By the way, my father was more of an American and really loved the country. Really did. Told me that over and over again. They were told that because Sylvania acquired Colonial Radio, and they acquired them because they could get government contracts. But you can't get a government contract with guys who are working in the plant whose brothers, cousins, and everything are on the other side. So all the German nationals, all of them, not my dad, all German nationals were giving their walking papers. Okay? And the war was there. Everything, our entire economy, our entire lives were geared towards winning that war. Okay? So my dad could not find a job anywhere that used his skills. So, yeah. So for the next 50 years, my father worked as a waiter at the Buffalo Athletic Club, which is right over here. Ironic because the desk that I had here in the Rath building on the 13th floor was a window. I could look right out, and I could turn around, just swivel in my chair and see that doorway that my dad went in every single day. And he had a especially rough time because, number one, the war economy was good, but the fact is that everybody needed their money to do the other things, and so many things were rationed and everything then. And the Buffalo Athletic Club, this is not the Buffalo Athletic Club that's there now or was there. It was like an in-city country club where only the elite of Buffalo society could go there. And because it was like that, you didn't give money. You signed for your membership, and if you went over your membership, they would bill you at the end of the month. Therefore, my dad never got any tips. The only time he got a tip was at perhaps Christmas time. I think that's probably the biggest time that somebody might have given him some tips. I will tell you right now, when he retired at age 65, he never had a W-2 for more than $5,000. So we were not, there's no silver spoon here in this mouth. Even though I talk like this, but there isn't any. And that was my dad. And I don't want to extend this interview too far, but I just will tell you that he worked breakfast, lunch, and supper. But there's a big gap between lunch and supper. So every day he would go to work, I think up at like 5:30 in the morning, be there for breakfast, be there for lunch. About 2 o'clock, he'd leave, get on the streetcar, and come back to the house and go and lay down, and then go back to work again, and then take the streetcar back. Wow. And I never, ever, God is my witness, Katie, I never heard him complain. Mm-hmm. He worked every holiday, which is not good for my mom. Christmas, New Year's, Easter, he worked all those days. He knew he had a commitment, and he knew he had a job, and he knew he had to work to do the things and get the things that he wanted.
Wow.
And needed to have.
He was a provider.
He was a provider. We've probably all experienced a time when you have said something, but you didn't say enough. And you said, oh, I wish I could go back and repeat that conversation. I got to do that a few times during the course of this interview. And thank you, Katie Earl, for allowing me to do this. The first thing I would like to say is that I am the son of immigrants. My mother and dad both immigrated to this country. And it's my sincere hope that everybody is well vetted who are allowed to come into this country so that they have the reverence and respect for what a great country this is. Yes.
And you even worked there too, correct? He got you a job?
I was a busboy every year. That was my first job. God, it was militaristic. Every morning before breakfast, they would line us up with the waiters, and they had a maitre d' that would check you. You know, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yes. It was very, you know. And as I cleaned up the dishes, which I did, took them off the tables for wealthy people, I never thought to myself, oh, those son of a guns or this or that. I always thought, I'm going to join them. I want to sit at this table someday, and I want to bring my father here. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that never materialized, and the nature of the Buffalo Athletic Club changed anyway. So, but I did bring him and my mom to dinner a lot of nice places when I finally could afford it.
Yeah, I'm sure they appreciated that.
Oh, I know they did.
Showed your love. So, if we may, I want to see what you look like as a young lad.
There he is. That one photo, the first one, I thought it was a year and a half. My mother told me that, I don't know who she was patronizing, but they would give you little coupons. And she got so many coupons, you could get a picture taken. And that's the first picture I guess I ever had taken. And the other one is in the house.
That's the cutest picture I've ever seen.
Really?
Yes.
Oh
you are so cute, so happy. It's just like, that's amazing.
You're not going to ask me what happened, are you? No. All right. Okay.
No, I'm not going to. But I know there's another picture here that comes with the story.
Growing up, I couldn't make one team in school. I couldn't make a baseball team, a basketball, nothing. I did not have one athletic gene in my body. You know the old saying, he throws like a girl? I mean, I guess, can I say that today?
You can, but it's an old saying.
That's an old saying, so I got to just say it. That was me. So I just didn't know what to do about it, but I knew I had to do something, but I wasn't exactly sure. Exercise back then was not touted at all by doctors. I mean, they're taking credit for a lot of things that were started completely out of their domain. They have now embraced them as being their own, you know, and they didn't start there at all.
So we're talking late 40s then, about this
Late
time?
40s, early 50s.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember, that's what I'd like to move on to the next picture.
Yeah.
Charles Atlas. Everybody had that course. I should have brought, I have the course, the live course. I should have brought one of them in. I forgot today. Our first vacation was when I was around 12 or 13 years old. And my father's sister's husband drove us out to Angola. And we rented a cottage. I think it was $20 or $25 for the week. And I was really excited, really excited. We could walk down to the beach, and we would go swimming, and it was really great. A couple of days it rained. Oh, I said, my God, what are we going to do? I started looking around the house for a magazine or something, you know. A lot of kids that age read back then. They read stuff they could hold like on paper. But so I found, in a magazine rack, I found somebody, because it was a rental cottage. There's people there every week. I found a Charles Atlas course that I had seen only in the back of comic books. And I tell you, I read that. I think there was 12 lessons. I read it and I reread it. I said, my God, this could help me. Took it home. I started doing all the exercises. I was completely devoted to it, and I started making progress. So much so that the course had its limitations because it didn't use any equipment. So there was no gyms, only the YMCA. And one day I was on a bus, and I was driving by, and it was a storefront with a big sign, Whitty's Health Studio, opening. Oh my God, that was in 1952. So I went and I started working out at Whitty's Health Studio. I got to know the guy who ran the health studio and everything else. The next year, he sponsored what was to be the second Mr. Buffalo physique contest. I entered. And I felt pretty darn good about it. Because, I mean, you know, I have so many pictures, and this, I already feel as if we're going long. But I competed in that contest. And it was I didn't win anything. But the fact that I could stand up there and really knew that to some extent, I belonged up there was quite an experience for me. And it was affirming. It was an affirmation of what I could do.
I think that's really powerful. You put yourself out there, you get to stand on that stage, and like you said, even though you didn't win, you were there.
I was there, and I did it.
Wow.
And I did it.
Yeah.
And during that time, during that time, we had a guest poser there. His name was Jim Park, and he had just won the Mr. America contest. And when you meet some of your idols, it's nice, you know. And I had occasion to meet him, talk with him. I drove around in the car and everything, and it was all positive. It was all a good experience. And it is self-improvement is always a good experience. And I think that a fellow by the name of Bernard McFadden, who I'll talk about in a minute, says something very, very true. We really are the authors of our own destiny, and we're the sculptors of our own body. Obviously, that's not 100% true. Destiny and other things enter in. But generally, it's a true statement. And it's a statement that I've always tried to live by. One of the greatest qualities that we have as human beings is to make our life better. It's critical. Here's a great saying that I like, and that is, we are the authors of our own destiny, and we are the sculptors of our own body. And we call that self-improvement.
I like that. So the Mr. Atlas course gave you hope, gave you direction.
It started me.
And shaped you, yeah.
It started me, really. And my progress was pretty good. It was pretty swift. I don't know why. Maybe because I had never used those muscles in athletics. I don't know. I have no idea what the reason was.
Yeah.
But it worked out well.
Now, what was your diet like back then? What were you eating?
Oh, diet was not even into... it was all exercise from the Atlas course.
Okay.
Basically all exercise. And he threw in fruits and vegetables and that type of a thing, you know. Actually, Charles Atlas was an Italian immigrant. His name was Angelo Siciliano. And he won a contest run by McFadden, the guy I just quoted. A perfect man, if there is such a thing. That was Charles Atlas. And the Atlas course was actually designed by McFadden, not by Atlas.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. So moving on, tell us about your first job. A second job, sorry, in addition to the restaurant.
Oh, the restaurant, yeah. Working out, I had gotten pretty big, I was, I forget what I weighed, but it was probably in the neighborhood of 215 pounds.
Really?
Yeah, and I very easily got a job. This was after the, this was, of course, after the war. American industry was humming. It really was. There was jobs posted everywhere. And I picked American Standard because it was the shortest drive for me, I had then bought a car myself. And so I got a job at American Standard, but I got it on the paint line. They had a conveyor with hooks, and they would hang the castings on these hooks, and I would spray the castings. Boy, all I had, there's a picture there that I'm using in the PowerPoint. It shows somebody that looks like it's almost got a hazmat suit on, and I'm covering it. No, it was hot. I had a T-shirt and this little cloth thing that they put over my mouth. That's all. There was no OSHA or anything. There was nothing protecting workers back in 1953, 54. Nothing. Okay. I was spraying the castings, and I noticed by the end of the day, I said there was a guy working over on the other side. I says, geez, I says, doesn't this paint and everything in the air bother you? He says, never bothered me. I says, oh boy. I said, that's it. Really, I was coming home filthy and exhausted. It was cutting into my workouts, which were really more primary for me then, because it was really exhausting because you're holding this paint thing all day. And that's heavy, and you got to make sure that the cast is completely painted. So I looked around, and they posted a job in the office. It was 2 separate unions. But I says, Kitty, I'd like to go, take this job. I said, what do you want? Why would you want that job? You're going to take a 50% pay cut. I says, well, I just like it for a lot of reasons. I'm doing other things. And they didn't want to give it to me. In fact, the foreman out on the floor says, it's not good you transfer a guy from the plant into the office. But they gave it to me. The job really was almost an office boy. I was like delivering mail throughout the plant, and I was running a multigraph machine. And it was really a copy machine. You could make hundreds of copies. And what I did is I used to make the catalogs for the furnaces. It showed, the installation instructions, the user instructions, all that type of thing. And that was working out fine. But I could see, but the big thing with that is I wasn't tired. I could still work out. And I could go to my wrestling matches at night, providing they were close enough, not much farther than Rochester. But I could go there and wrestle. And on Saturday nights, perhaps I might go to Hamilton, Ontario, wrestle up there. It worked out very, very well. But there was no real money here. And I was, I guess I didn't care. I guess my mom cared more than I did. She didn't want to see me, she didn't want to see me become a complete bum. She suggested that she saw an ad in the paper. And the ad in the paper was for the Ward School of Data Processing. She says, honey, look at this. These computers, I understand they're going to be a lot of jobs in computers. I says, and she never really tried to tell me what to do. And so out of deference to that, I says, yeah, okay, Mom, I'll go down. So I took a bus. It was a Delaware bus. I went down to the address on Delaware Avenue, and I got off the bus, and I'm looking, I don't see anything here. It was a dress shop. And on the side was a door. Ward School of Data Processing was upstairs over a dress shop. But I went, and I stuck it out. I took the course, paid for the course with the money I was making, but it wasn't really computers like as we know computers. It was the use of tabulating cards with holes in them. Punch cards, they call it tabulating equipment. As luck would have it, American Standard acquired their first computer, punch card computer. Today we call it tabulating equipment. Okay. I couldn't believe it. I had completed the course, and there was a posting, a job posting, which they had to do, which they do here, okay, at the Rath Building, for a second shift tabulating operator. I took it. I took it. The only drawback was I couldn't do my wrestling in the evening. I could only do it on like a Saturday night. But I took it, and I worked there, and apparently I did okay. And as the department expanded, they brought in more people. I got a job on the first shift. They promoted me to a systems analyst, because I don't know why. I didn't have any business background, but I guess I understood it well enough to some people say, well, that's a good idea, that's a good idea. The manager of the data processing, I was a systems analyst, he was the manager, had a terrible heart attack. And they called me and it says, Bob is going to be out for a long time. Says, would you accept the position of temporary position as manager? I said, yeah, well, I can do that till he comes back. Well, things did get, I'm going to say they were better under me. It could be the times, it could be the circumstances, but they liked me as a supervisor. And Bob, who was a good friend of mine, who sang at my wedding, they told him he didn't work there anymore. And that was my first taste of corporate compassion. I didn't want it. I didn't want the job. I didn't want that job to be taken away from him. But as it worked out, that's the way it worked out.
That's tough.
Yeah. I have many more corporate stories, which I'm not going to tell here today.
Okay, well, that's fine. But if we can rewind a little bit, I kind of want to hear a little bit about your transformation.
All right. Here we are. First picture of me is in 49, the next one's at 54. There's my wrestling license, one of my later ones. I got a license, I was the youngest guy in New York State when I first got it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, to have a wrestling license. And you can see that my gains were, I guess, pretty good if we can see that PowerPoint up on the screen now. You can see that I made some pretty good gains. Yeah, I became a professional wrestler. Look at that. And you know something, and I'm going to do this through the course of the interview that you're giving me, if I may, Katie, because I guess when people get older, they tell stories that they can't be verified. I hear stuff that can't be verified. Even here, I hear stuff from people about their background. I'm paranoid about that. If I've gone to parties and said, yeah, well, we wrestled profession. Yeah. He was a wrestler, all right. No, I was a wrestler, all right. I wrestled on television. I wrestled in Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, the Buffalo War Memorial Auditorium, Syracuse War Memorial Auditorium, Rochester War. I wrestled a lot of TV stuff. And the only thing that bothers me is I can't get a hold of any of my old TV videos because they were done on 3/4 tape, which became obsolete. It's all been probably thrown in a dumpster. I would love today to see some of those things. Even though usually I got the heck beat out of me, I would still like to see those videos, but they've all vanished. Even the Buffalo News, there's a couple of articles you see there, they're from the Buffalo News. And because I was a Buffalo boy, they actually put my name in the headlines. So that made me, even at work, it made me, whoa, this guy's a wrestler, and he's in the news. And there was a sports commentator named Chuck Healy, and Channel 4 used to broadcast out of the old Statler building. And he had a sports clinic, and once in a while he'd bring wrestling stars on, and I was like the crash dummy. They would show wrestling holds on me, but everybody saw me at least once a month on television, black and white, but I was on TV.
That's super neat. And so tell me what the ring was like.
There's a big difference if you go to YouTube and look at a match from 1950. No, let's even say 1960. You'll see there are all these high-flying things that they do now. You say, well, they were much better athletes today, which might be true, because athletics does get better and better. Records are broken all the time, but that's not the reason that the 50s matches look so slow. We used to wrestle in boxing rings, and in a boxing ring, the flooring had to be very, very firm, because a lot of boxers use their legs more than they do their fists. And so every time you got thrown, you landed on nothing more than a canvas pulled over plywood.
Really?
Oh, you hit plywood every single time. And today they have all kinds of mats outside the ring. The ringsiders are set back. Back in the 50s, you were sitting just about as close as you and I are sitting now, which is, by the way, more than 6 feet, okay? And I got thrown out of the ring, but that was right onto concrete.
And how high? How high was it?
Oh, I would say in total at least 7 feet. Yeah, I probably had the world's record for flying out of the ring at the auditorium, especially during one of my matches. But guy threw me out of the ring literally probably 10 times.
Really?
Over the top, yeah. Over the top of the ropes.
You have to get back up just like you're fine.
That's why I am like I am now.
It all makes sense.
Yeah, of course it does.
Wow.
Sometimes when I talk about myself, I can be a little self-deprecating. Maybe I was a little bit better at wrestling than I said during the interview. There was a junior heavyweight champion of the world. His name was Danny McShane. I grew to know Danny very, very well. And when he was leaving Buffalo to go back to Texas, he actually invited me to come to Texas with him, to come to Houston and become his tag team partner. And he was junior heavyweight champion of the world.
All right, so we did the wrestling, and then you got into the music industry.
Yes, yes. I was wrestling quite a while. There's a lot more clippings in my house than showing on here. Some of them I'm rather proud of. I wrestled on the cards with all the major stars, and I met them all. People, I'm not going to throw their names, and those people watching this won't even know who they are anyway. But I also got a little tired of getting bruised and banged up all the time. I was not a natural athlete. I was an athlete who kind of built myself up. And many nights in the ring, that became very apparent by what I felt, you know. I wrestled a couple of guys who were all-American football players. Bibber McCoy from Holy Cross and a big Greek guy named Mike Paducius. You know, he had a neck, about 22-inch neck. And these guys, boom, you brim it. I don't think I like this. I mean, I look good, you know. But I said, you know, these guys are kicking the hell out of me, you know.
Yeah.
And I like being a singer. I used to sing a lot. And being still living, believe it or not, in Cold Spring, I would stop into some of the bars along Jefferson Avenue. And I would sing with some of the bands there. And they kind of liked what I was doing. And we actually then had George Hound Dog Lorenz. You don't even know who he is. A lot of people won't know who he is. He heard about me singing in African-American black bars, and we talked, and he said, you know, a guy owes me a favor in Rochester. His name was Vince Jan, and he had a record company too. So the Hound Dog sent me and a vocal group called the Vibraharps up to Rochester, and we recorded 2 songs that I wrote, Orangutan and Voodoo Mama. I'm not going to sing them for you now.
Yeah, it's okay.
No, I know, I'm sure it is. But I do have the records, and believe it or not, and I sent one to you yesterday, when you scroll down, Norton Records is still, if you put in, by the way, once I got into it, I started like in an R&B and blues more thing. Then I tied up with a guy named Wade Curtis, who was a paraplegic in a wheelchair who loved rock and roll, but he loved rockabilly. You know what rockabilly is? Jerry Lee Lewis. It's country music combined with rock and roll.
Oh, okay.
Okay? My voice was kind of suited to that. We did all the record hops. We did everything. I sang all over Western New York, and I was still working. I kind of put the wrestling in the rearview mirror, okay? And I dropped about maybe 40 pounds because I said, no, nobody wants to see a fat guy sing. So, so I dropped all the weight. However, when they advertised me, they still used my wrestling pictures. Even the record company did, because there were a million guys out there with a microphone and, you know, and the pompadour, but they were sticking my wrestling pictures into the mix to promote my records. And we did pretty well with the records. The record I made with the Vibraharps something that could never happen today. We made the record on Sunday. It was on KB. Now that, again, won't mean much to you, but KB was all over the Northeast.
Okay.
We were almost up to Vermont. My God, WKBW is 1520 AM. It just covered the whole Northeast. So they were playing my record on Thursday that I had recorded on Sunday. And George Lorenz was doing it. What happened was, and I wasn't paying him, he actually paid to have the record made, Payola. Oh, pay for play.
Oh, okay.
The record companies were paying the disc jockeys to play their records and push their records. Therefore, the station took over, and it was taken out of the disc jockey's hands. So the stations made the playlist, and when it did, Voodoo Mama fell off the playlist.
Oh.
Well, they got no sense of humor.
But she can walk through walls and need a fire. She's friends with every werewolf and vampire. So just do all your walking when it's light. And don't you mess around the swamps at night. 'Cause she will put a spell on you, alright.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So, and then that's when I started working with Wade Curtis. And I did make friends with a lot of the disc jockeys. One of them was Dan Nevereth, whose son works right here. I think he's Commissioner of Highways or whatever he is, Dan Nevereth Jr. I did a lot of gigs for Danny Nevereth and all the big disc jockeys of that time. Yeah, it was a wonderful experience. And then a record company picked us up. So they did when Wade Curtis was sick, they needed money, so he sold all of our stuff. And his wife called me and says, I want, they offered him maybe a couple of $1,000 or $5,000. She says, now, how much of that, because most of the songs were mine, I wrote them. But they picked up and they made an anthology called Bright Lights, which was a song I wrote called Bright Lights. And someday, I'll play it for you.
Yeah, I'd love
You're
to
going to
hear
make you
it.
suffer through it.
Oh, it's no
But they
suffering.
called the song Bright Lights, and I, of course, told his wife to, take the money.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. So, and it sold very well, by the way. It sold very, very well. And for some unknown reason, it sold very well to bikers.
Like motorcyclists?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. That's what the company told me. And they were doing really, really well with it. So,
Interesting.
yeah, and a lot of different things, but basically that's my singing career. The picture you see in the lower corner there is me at Gateway Park. That's 2 years ago. There was 2 acts that night, me and I was the first one, and the second was a fellow called Big Wheelie. It was Big Wheelie and the Hubcaps. And before we were talking today, we were talking about COVID, and unfortunately, Big Willie passed away last year from COVID. A guy I've known for like 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a story that I wish we could have captured, because his story is phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
I just wanted to add one other thing about my musical career. After the CD was made by Norton Records, which is mostly an anthology of the songs that I had written and sung with Wade Curtis and the Rhythm Rockers. About 10 years later, I got a call from a disc jockey in New Jersey who had a show called Radio Record Relics. And he was telling me that Bright Lights, the song that I had written and performed, was one of the most popular songs on his program.
Okay, so we know about your music career, and now I want to hear about your acting career.
Well, now we're back to Cold Spring again. We're back to my old neighborhood. A lot of people I knew were in a group called the Ira Aldridge Players. Ira Aldridge was one of the first noted African-American Shakespearean actors. I think he scored his fame playing Othello in the Shakespeare play of the same name. So they named the acting group called the Alder Irish Players, and we did a lot of the works of James Baldwin, who was a black writer, playwright, and we did a lot of his works. Most of them dealt with social injustice and things along that line. It was a predominantly black cast, but in plays of that nature, I was always the bad guy. But it's okay. It's okay. It was a wonderful experience. The rehearsals were so much fun. The one you're looking at on the internet was from Baird Hall. That's at the UB. We also did the Mary Seton Hall. We did in Klein Ann's Music Hall, the Mary Seton Room. We also did the Chautauqua Institute at the amphitheater. We did a lot over a 2-year time. And I was in all of those plays and met a lot of just great and wonderful people. And we had some great times. A really good experience for me. And I think the wrestling prepped me up for acting a little bit.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I took to it like a duck to water.
You are an entertainer, Richard.
Well, hopefully. I hope it's not just self-styled.
I don't think so, but now I want to hear about your family and your support system.
Well, I got married in 1966. That's the picture you see on the screen is my wife Maureen, and on a scale of 1 to 10, I thought she was an 11. And when I went over the bridge for our honeymoon, we were on our way to Toronto, and the guy at the bridge, and as I told you earlier, I think he probably said this to every attractive girl. He says, "Can I say something?" I said, "Yes." He says, "That's the most beautiful woman that's ever crossed this bridge." And that was so nice. And we had two children, Richie and Kathy. You see one of them there at an amusement park. And another one, when we went back to Toronto for a vacation, that was up in a hotel room in Toronto, and there was music on, and they would start dancing with each other. They were very close as brother and sister. We could drive all day, and a crossword never happened between the two of them.
Really?
No.
Wow.
There was no bickering. They were really, really close. And I was really, really close to Kathy, too. Really, really close to Kathy. We had the same birthday, February 15th, and according to my mother, we were born within the same hour, between 5 and 6. So when we had our birthdays were celebrated together. And we had a bond, as a lot of fathers and daughters do. We had the extra bond of having our birthday on the same day. And Kathy was intellectually very, very bright. She really was. I was really proud of her. And I also got her into health and fitness, okay? And what you see there is Kathy with her then boyfriend, Steve Downs, who went on to win the national natural Mr. Universe contest. And Kathy placed in the Miss Buffalo contest. And she was, she had the looks and she had a great figure, and I was very, very proud of her. And she went on to do some other things because I always loved movies. I loved making movies when the kids were little. So I would make movies and I'd star them in the movies. And she caught the movie addiction. And I think Richie did too, I was telling the producer here earlier. I like to have him beat my son, but Richie also likes to produce stuff. And she won the International Miami Film Festival Award for the Best Short Comedy.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, and she did an exercise thing on a rebounder, which is a mini trampoline.
Uh-huh.
And she sang and recited some stuff and did some little gymnastics because she was pretty good. It's my daughter, of course, I'm talking about. And when Kathy Lee Gifford was leaving the Regis and Kathy Lee, they had a contest to replace Kathy Lee. One of the persons chosen was my daughter. We were so excited, and they were going to make a short list. Helen Tedros, have you ever heard the name?
I've heard the name, yeah.
She was from Channel 7. They were at our house because the Regis show was an ABC affiliate, and that was Channel 7. They were hoping that Kathy was going to make it for the interest in Buffalo. So Helen Tedros was there. I think she's now married to John Murphy, who does the Buffalo Bills announcing. But she was there, my wife, we were all there waiting, and Kathy didn't make the cut, okay? But she was on. She went on, and she did, and after that, that helped her, because she did a little talk show, radio thing in South Florida.
Oh.
Yeah, and then Kathy was a little psychic. She was a very spiritual person. And they were talking about spirituality and psychic visions. And she went on the Montel Williams show, too. And some of her stuff, some of the videos she made was on Extra Extra, when that was a show. You know, so Kathy, we never missed the Academy Awards. We watched them every single year. And, you know, we had little bean bags, and we'd lay down and we'd watch the things together. And believe me, Kate, when I tell you, I don't think any father loved their daughter more than I love Kathy. It was so much.
I can feel it.
Yeah,
You were proud. Still are proud.
yeah. Kathy got a brain aneurysm. I talked to her in the morning. She says, "Daddy, I got a terrible headache. So I don't think I'll be able to go to work today." She was a hostess at an upscale restaurant in Palm Beach. And I said, "Well, lay down, honey. Just lay down." And I said, "Don't go to work. Just call him and tell him." She said, "I can't believe I've taken like 5 ibuprofen. Won't stop." So when her husband came home, he called me. And ironically, they were supposed to come about 6 weeks down. I was making a movie special to show them. And what I was looking at on the monitor was little Kathy coming down the driveway. So help me God.
Yeah.
And I picked up the phone, and it was Mitchell, her husband. He says, "Dad," he says, "I came home, Kathy was on the couch, and she's dead."
Oh.
You could have ripped my guts out over that. I didn't think that I would ever survive that. You know, and this is really getting personal, and maybe I'm going too far with this, Katie, but when we went down, I couldn't sleep. I got up in the middle of the night, and I asked God to take me and put her back. Put her back. She didn't deserve to go then. She had so much going for her, really, but that's how Kathy ended her life. There's also a thing called Legacy.com. I don't know how they ever found her, but she's on Legacy.com with a lot of famous people.
Yeah.
I have no idea how they got that. But anyway.
Well, Richard, I appreciate you sharing that with us. I cannot even begin to understand the pain that you and your family felt.
I never thought. I've lost a lot of things in my life. We all do.
Yeah.
Living is an experience with up times and down times. I've lost significant amount of money. I'm not really good with money. You know, there's no finances in this presentation. But losing her, I thought I would never live through it. My wife had a breakdown. She actually had a nervous breakdown.
Yeah.
It was horrible. Just a horrible time.
I'm so sorry. But you have so much to be proud of with her and everything that you've done together.
There are occasions after I give a talk that someone may walk up to me and say, "You know, you seem so upbeat and so positive, but you don't know the things that have happened in my life." And I guess I just have to tell them, things happen in everybody's life. Tragic things. In my own case, it was the loss of my daughter. But what I try to do on a daily basis, and I have to do this, is think about the wonderful, great times that we had together. One thing we cannot do is hold on and constantly dwell on the negative aspects of our life.
So let's talk about Richie.
Oh, Richie, well, there's a 3 in a row. Kathy was never heavy. Richie liked to eat. He had really liked to eat. And unfortunately, the first part of our marriage, we lived with my mother, and she loved to feed. See, Kathy wouldn't take the food. She knew. Being female, I guess, learned that. She got a little round when she was maybe in first or second grade, and then she's, whoa, not Richie. He did everything in sight. He's like Pac-Man. So I really I pressed upon him the value of not being heavy and to be in shape. And that's him. I think he was a freshman in high school when he got down to that weight, which is really good. And he competed. And I think he won second place in the Mr. T Niagara contest. Yeah. It changes your life. Remember we talked to Julie one time and she says how these people have changed their lives, how they can walk better, how they can do all these things. It's all because of exercise. There's no magic bullet. Things you do, you have to do for yourself. And that's something that I bang home to the Club 99, to myself, and to everybody. It's very important. Diet and exercise are critical. Today, Richie is a entertainer. The girl in the red dress you see there is his wife, Debbie. And they go all around and they entertain. They work for Caesars. They work for Caesars in Atlantic City and Caesars in the Poconos. They made a very good living. The worst thing that happened was COVID. And I just say thank God for the stimulus, because they have 4 children. And his book went, they have a bookings book, if that's the right term. It went from being the best year to being the worst year they ever had. And the show is great. I love it. They even had the kids in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it worked out, it worked out very well. And they made a good living. They have a house in Tonawanda. They have 2 vehicles. Things are fine. But boy, last year and this year are 0. Fortunately, Richie's an actor too. And he works with a group called Dramatic Solutions. And they come into companies and corporations. It's all virtual now. But they teach about sensitivity, racial sensitivity, gender sensitivity. And Richie, again, for some reason plays the bad guy in all those. We're all typecast. but it's all worked out very well. He's making a decent living for his family off of that. There's a lot of virtual work now. So that's good. And he's working on a thing right now, fighting depression. He's doing some videos and things along that line.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Wow, good. I'm glad he was able to pivot and still get work with the virtual world.
Yes, it's a godsend.
Definitely. So you mentioned work, and tell me about this gentleman now.
When I was working second shift, there was a guard there. He was working his way through college. I have to confess, I qualified at the UB for physical therapy. I wanted to, it was 4 years. It was expensive. We didn't have a lot of money. I would have to go to school every day, which wouldn't have been the end of the world for me. I could have done it, but I says no. So I went out and bought a new car with the radio, and I could cruise around, and I could wrestle, and and apparently we didn't have it. Myself and some of my friends had really no high hopes for our future. So I kind of lived in the moment, which apparently I did all my life. And getting back to Norm Weller was a guy who used to walk through every night. Data processing was surrounded by glass. And he'd knock on the door. He was a guard. He would knock on the glass. I'd say hi. After a while, I'd step out and talk to him, and ultimately we became friends. And he brought his lunch, I brought my lunch. We sat down and we ate together. He graduated from college, and he got a better job. And he left, of course, and said his goodbyes and everything else. In 1975, American Standard closed. Now here I am, a supervisor of the computer department. 2 kids, no degree. Dresser Industries in Depew ran a big ad, quarter-page ad in the paper. Computer science degree. Okay? to put in inventory systems and put in for heavy manufacturing and everything else. I saw the ad. Of course, obviously, the headline of the ad turned me right off. So Norb, believe it or not, the phone rang. Richard Derwald is, yeah. Norb Weller. I says, yeah. Hey, I'm over here at Dresser Industries. I said, oh, yeah, boy, I seen your ad, Norb. I was a holdover yet because the American Standard plant was phasing out. I said, yeah, I see your ad in the papers. Yeah, I says, you got to come over and apply for that. I said, Norb, you know I can't get that job. It's a computer science job. I want you to come over. I'll get you the interview. I said, okay. I didn't have a lot of hope. I thought it would just be a Norb and being a friend and let me, see what could happen. I went in there and interviewed. I'm sure I answered mostly every question wrong. Really, well, they asked me, what are your goals? What do you see yourself in five? The old crap. I said, well, why would you want to work? Why do you want to continue to work on? Well, I like to work because I like to pay my bills. That's what I told them. That wasn't the answer to give, I suppose. And the other answer I gave, and I had worked so much overtime at American Standard. He said, what do you think about overtime? If you're going to be a manager, what do you think about overtime? I said, well, sometimes overtime is necessary. I said, but generally speaking, overtime is for two reasons. I said this in an interview. So I says, because there's way too much work to do, okay, and not enough time to get it done in, or a lot of people just don't want to go home. Thank you. We'll give you a call. That's the end of that. I made the short list. One of the guys on the short list was from an Ivy League university. Not too many guys from Buffalo, because you know why? It was 1975. University of Buffalo did not start their computer program until 1972. Academia sometimes does not always keep up either. They give you all these different classes about keeping current, and they themselves were behind the times. But anyway, I didn't have a lot of local competition. I had guys who had, I'd say guys, because they were all guys at that time, who were, had gone out of town. I think the one guy was from Stanford. That's pretty close to Silicon Valley. But anyway, they sent us down to an industrial psychologist. The guy says, I've been very busy all day, could you just go to lunch? And, well, of course, when I got back on the plane, I realized that our lunch conversation was him analyzing me. How would I act at lunch and all that type of thing. A week later, they called me back. I got the job.
Wow.
Okay, that's the bottom line. I got the other two guys. They said I could work much better with the guys in the plant than the other two guys, who apparently showed a little loftiness or whatever trait they showed.
Yeah, it wasn't what they were looking for.
It wasn't what they were looking for.
Down to earth, honesty, that's you. That's really neat.
So that's it.
No, I like that. It's
That's
not it, though.
That's the Dresser story.
Because you were a small business owner.
Yeah, after Dresser closed. And this is another thing. If I could, the only thing I have to prove this would have been a phone call, and I didn't tape all my calls. I know, don't get mad at me.
I
Don't
hope you're
get
not
mad at
taping
me.
any of your calls, Richard.
They called me from Dallas. The corporate offices in Dallas for Dresser when Dresser closed, and asked me if I'd like a job internationally. It may have, I don't know why, I had a good track record over there. I became president of the management club at Dresser. I was voted supervisor of the year for 2 years. That's all. I got plaques, but I didn't put the pictures in. I didn't do anything. Okay. Do you want to come and be on our systems staff? I was going to be stationed in Heidelberg. And at the time, my dad was going downhill. He had prostate cancer. Richie and Debbie, Richie and Kathy was still in grammar school. Richie was in high school. I wouldn't leave that burden on my wife because the family, they made it clear, the family is not part of the deal. It was 1983, they were going to pay me $1,500 a week. That'd probably be like $3,000 maybe, probably doubled since then. And I turned it down because I had already decided to open my own business. Maureen went to cosmetology school. Sounds like Housewives of New Jersey. And I went to massage school up in Toronto. I was commuting. I had to go a couple of days a week, and I wasn't working virtually, but they knew I did all my assignments and everything at home. I graduated, she graduated. We owned a house right on the corner of Main and Inglewood. We called it Head to Toe. And we started up there. Katie, we did tremendous. If you go to the library and get an old phone book from 1983 and look at it, you'll see under massage, there'd be 2 listings. One I think is Arthur Harris, and one is Head to Toe. We had a skincare room. We had my massage therapy room, and another person was doing massage therapy. We had 3 people cutting hair. We sold cosmetics. It was really wonderful. And to get into your own business, however, we were the first one in. And some others, I think like Sant'Angelo, and some of the bigger ones who were in East Amherst or who were in Clarence, they covered us. Because initially, we were getting people from Springville out to Akron, driving into Buffalo to come to Head to Toe. We had a package called Escape for a Day, and we made a deal with a limousine company, especially for Mother's Day. They'd pick up a mother, there was champagne in the back seat, of course, yeah, and we'd drive them over. They would get a facial, they'd get a massage, they'd get their hair done. It was a complete day for a woman just to get away from her job or housework, or the kids and everything else. Worked really well.
Wow. That's
So,
impressive.
this little write-up we got in the local newspaper.
I'm just always amazed at how well you pivot and how open you are, and nothing's ever a failure. It's always an opportunity.
The failures aren't in the presentation.
Oh, that's right. Is that part 2?
There won't be a part 2.
Chuck's hoping not.
Oh, guys, I can't take any more of this guy.
All right, well, let's talk about you as an author now.
Yep, you already know this, but I'm going to tell you again. When I was wrestling, my mother wanted me to quit. She was worried about me. She used to sprinkle holy water on me on the way out the door. So I was, oh my God, I would get banged up here. My sister had this pancake makeup, they called it. I don't know if they call that anymore, but I remember it was I would take it when I got home, and I'd put it on all my, I'd have half a black eye, or I'd be banged up, my neck would be, because back then, a lot of the wrestlers even got cauliflower ears. Mm-hmm. You don't see that anymore. No wrestler has cauliflower ears, unless you're an amateur wrestler, wrestling for some college, you might get it, or if you're a cage fighter. Professional wrestlers, they don't have, because everything is so, light and choreographed. But I was getting banged up a lot. The only way I could have my mother not have a nervous breakdown was to put the makeup on, And then I says, a couple of times, geez, I look better with, and I was young. I look better with this on than I do with it off, So I go on dates, I put on, geez, I look better. Everybody wants to look good. I don't care what you are. What you say, everybody wants to look good. Mm-hmm. And looking good makes you feel good. Because when somebody walks in a room, you're going to make an impression about that person, about their economic status, their education. Sometimes you're completely wrong, okay? Mm-hmm. But you do make a decision. First impression, that they call it. But the biggest decision every single day is when you look in the mirror. Because the mirror feeds back to you who you are, okay? And I think that's really, really important. And it became, you laugh at me a lot. You're not laughing today, but you laugh at me a lot.
It's the mask, you can't tell.
Oh, that's true. Because it is important the way we look.
Absolutely.
Yes, it is. It's very, very important the way we look. And it's not hard. And it's not hard to be in shape. It's not hard to eat right. We're looking for other magic things. Creams don't do it. I mean, all these different, I can't believe people are still buying into all that stuff. If you got a diet, you use, there's oils within your diet, it's going to come into your skin. I mean, I'm not going, I'm out of the soapbox. This is the book, Head to Toe, or for men only. I just went back Head to Toe. It's sold on Amazon. Mm-hmm. It's not self-published. It's published by Prometheus Books, which is on John Glenn Drive in Amherst. They're really, most of the authors are intellectuals and have several letters after their name. This was a makeover book for men. And the guy liked the idea. The guy's name was Paul Kurtz. And he's not a guy that jumped into a lot of things. He was also editor or chief of the Skeptical Inquirer. Have you ever heard of that magazine?
No, I haven't.
It's skepticism over various spiritual things that a lot of people buy into. And he was a skeptic. And Skeptical Inquirer was a magazine for skeptics. Okay? So, but he bought into this. The guy who wrote the book with me is the guy I met at the gym. Me and Richie was training to be, I met this guy's name was Anthony. And we started talking. The company, this book started over drinks. And we said, why don't we write a book about, the importance of it for men. When guys get older, sometimes their grooming isn't all that great. I can see it at the senior centers, but I see a lot of women who are also guilty of that too. That image, the way somebody looks doesn't mean anything. No, stop that. Stop that. It means an awful, awful lot. It means way more than a lot of people would ever like to believe, But at any rate, we talk about diet. We talk about exercise. And in doing all those things, we contacted companies. Like we contacted Hair Club for Men. Did you ever see Cy Sperling? I'm not just a customer. I'm the president of the company,
Okay.
And he bought in. He actually bought in and agreed to buy so many books. And so did Hair Club, the hair coloring for men, just for men hair color.
Oh, okay.
They bought in, okay? And I got pictures like of Raleigh Fingers, who was a all-star baseball player. And we got photos to use in the book. So we had an advanced sale before the book was printed. Yeah.
That's impressive.
And it sold really, really well. And it's a long story, but at the end, should we say the term, I hate the term, at the end of the day, we made more money for Prometheus Books in 1996 than any other book that they sold.
Wow.
So it worked out very, very. And we did television interviews from Montreal down to South Beach in Miami.
Wow.
AM Cleveland, AM Akron. We were on the Canadian version of 2020.
Wow.
Palm Beach. Yep.
Mm.
I have all those videos too, by the way.
I believe
So
you,
you
Richard.
can, okay, I know.
We're not getting any kickbacks here, folks. We're
No.
just no sponsorships.
Once again, I would like to add something that I guess I forgot during the interview.
Yeah, because this interview's not long enough.
Well, we want to make it longer.
Yeah.
All right?
Well, you are.
We talked about the book, For Men Only, Secrets of a Successful Image. In that book, we talk about cosmetics for men. And people say, oh, cosmetics for men. I just heard, I think 2 days ago, Alex Rodriguez, A-Rod, is starting a men's cosmetic company. So we were only about 20 years ahead of our time.
But not only do you talk the talk, you've continued to walk the walk. How old are you here,
Mid-50s.
if I may ask?
Oh, yeah,
50s.
yeah, about 50s, yeah. I may have been closer to 60. This was, I believe, Mr. New York State. Mr. New York State over 50, in which I placed second.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow. That's impressive.
yeah.
Okay.
I think those were all shot the same night. I'm not sure.
Well, you're wearing the same little thing, so I would assume.
They all had little things.
All right, moving on,
Yeah.
Richard. What's this?
It's the only thing I could get that would prove this, and we're going to go over this quickly.
Yeah.
Back in 1976 or 77, I hired a kid who really had a problem getting a job. He was working as a tabulating operator for the sample shop.
Okay.
And all he was doing was keeping inventories of dresses. But that's what he had to do. And he went to Niagara Community College, and he seemed to be very bright. He wasn't too bright on his sartorial selections. He came in with a green polyester leisure suit on, and he was chewing a pack of gum, and yeah, we started talking, and I knew it. I says, you know, I can't even say the guy was a nerd, because he wasn't, but he was a guy that really understood technology. And I had a feeling when I hired him. We hired him through an agency. His first day on the job, he came in, and my boss, who was the controller of the facility, called me on the phone. My phone was ringing. He said, you want to come in here for a minute? I said, sure. Came in, he says, I just saw the guy you hired. He says, that guy does not fit our group. He says, why would you hire him? I said, well, I think he's a real smart guy. I'm going to tell you something, Richard. He says, you're doing a good job here, but, he said, if this guy doesn't work out, he says, we're going to have to take our employment agency fee out of your pay. I said, okay. Did he work out? I'm not going to tell you all the things he did. But Dresser Industries had their own set of software for like accounts payable, fixed assets. They wanted uniformity in some areas. And they sent you down the software. I think there were over 50 divisions of Dresser, nationally and internationally. And because of him, Wayne Moritz, we broke every record for installation.
Wow.
Every record. I remember one day at my desk, I was figuring some numbers, and he was talking to me. And he talked real fast. He talked like that. And I was adding up numbers. And he spit out the answer. 14,694. It's what? Well, what are you talking about? He says that is the sum total of what you're adding up. I said, get out of here. He added up upside down while he's talking. I don't know if that's a Rain Man thing or what, but
Wow.
yeah, I know. He went on to form his own company, Silent Partner Software. I almost got off the subject, I'm sorry. Silent Partner Software. He called me down because, again, he beat out some really big companies. He controlled all the government requires these big pharmaceutical companies to control a certain area of their drugs, probably opiates and things like that. Wayne beat out some major players to get that contract that he was controlling all their drugs. They were really happy. He wanted me to come down and do some things with him for scanning and things. I would do the systems analysis, not the software part. So we're walking by in the Eggert office, and the guy knocks on a door, knocks on the window. Me and Wayne come in very quickly. He was a consultant. He was working for SmithKline Beecham, because SmithKline Beecham wanted to buy all they wanted Quest to buy all their labs. We have Quest labs now. Mm-hmm. Testing is a huge business as far as diagnostic work. But there was an impediment to the sale. It was the differences in software and making those two things come together. IBM had already given their bid. It was over $5 million, and the duration was nearly 5 years. Another major company had put in a bid for even more. Even the SmithKline people themselves put a 5-year thing in. Wayne said, I can do that probably in a year and a half.
Get out.
Yes.
Wow.
We got it. I can't believe the guy had the guts. It was a 3-man company. I was only there as a consultant. 4 people, 4 of us, mostly Wayne, work at nights and everything else. We had the whole thing done in 14 months.
Really?
Yeah. Wayne made about $1.5 million on it. He was paying me what Europe was going to pay me, $1,500 a month, plus I had a house on the beach, plus he rented me a Lincoln Continental, and I have no idea for what. He says, you got to do it for image. he drove some kind of expensive Lexus or some damn thing. He drove around.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a kid that I hired, but he remembered me.
Huh.
And I gave him his first job. And I was proud of that. I would even have this, because to tell that story, you better have some justification or some documentation, okay? That's all. we were written up in, I think, a magazine was Computer World, how we saved $50 million or something, some ridiculous. Wayne's name, my name was on in the article, but it refers to what happened at that time.
Well, a reoccurring theme that I'm seeing here, Richard, is your relationships and how you've made impressions on people that continue to come back into your life and give you good things.
It's good to hear your voice. I'm hearing my own voice all the time.
Well, you are talking quite
Well,
a bit.
I know. Oh, okay, thank you.
It's your interview.
I
though.
know. Thank you very much, Katie. Yeah, you're right. I have made good friends along the way.
Yeah.
One of my best friends in the world is from 4th grade, and we talked last night.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, how sweet.
Yeah, and our paths were very much the same.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
Did he come up with an action figure?
No, but I did.
You did? Tell me about it.
Oh, God. How much longer can this go?
That really goes up to Chuck, but we're getting there.
Oh, my God. I'm sorry. This is going to need some editing. I know it is. When Richie was little, I wanted him to get in wrestling with me. Okay? We wanted to do a tag team together. He was looking pretty good, and we're probably about the same size. So what I did, he had superhero dolls. I'm going to talk faster now.
Okay.
He had superhero dolls. And I would show him, if you're here in a tag team does require some choreography. Okay, it does. Because otherwise you'll be bumping into each other.
Right.
And I sat back and thought, why don't they make action figures out of the wrestlers? So I sent that letter in. I can't really dictate the letter from memory, but it's up on the screen now, to a guy named Dan Muldoon. Of course, I didn't have a computer, but the woman next door had a typewriter, and you can see that's written on a typewriter. Her name was Marie Coleman, and at the end, she signed as my witness. We got it notarized. That's all I had. Didn't have a lawyer. I said, this is going to be, hopefully, an idea somebody might like. Okay? Well, but I talked to Muldoon again. He says, okay, good. He says, no, this is not mainline enough for us. It's not, we like to work with Star Wars or something. Some other woman got me on the phone. Mr. Derwald, do we still have your permission to proceed with your idea? I says, yeah. Her name was Karen Weiss. And she did, and she called me, and then she says, okay. A lot of dialogue took place. Can't recount all that here, of course. But the main thing was they did get a deal. They gave me the contract. If you see anything if you watch wrestling, which I know you wouldn't.
I grew up watching it. Sting was my favorite wrestler.
Who is?
Sting.
Okay. Okay. I think our producer might watch it, but I'm not sure. But they sell wrestling belts for the kids. They sell wrestling rings. If you go back, just one slide, if I may.
Of course.
You'll see underlined is the wrestling belts, the wrestling rings. I suggested all of that to them. So then Karen called me and says, we're making a deal. We're going to go ahead with your idea. We're getting licensing permission from the WWF, which it was at that time. And she says, they're going to make things out of wrestlers. We're going to make them. Okay? She says, are you sitting down? I says, yeah. We're going to send you a contract. And you just signed the contract. There it is. And we are going to send you $10,000. Wow. I wrote a 5-page letter. I said, how about the royalties? And then, not at this level, Richard. She says, all our toys are made for the year. I said, we got our catalogs printed. She says, this is a filler. Every year we put in filler toys. She says, 10,000 is a darn good price that you're going to get. I said, okay, I guess I can go along with that. So, there it is, a check for $10,000. They were true to their word. They paid me $10,000, which is great. However, I talked to Karen. I says, could you send me all the action figures you're going to make, just one of each? And they did. And they had a catalog. Some guy threw the catalog in. And I picked the catalog up, and I opened it up. The centerfold was my idea. It was their top toy of the year. Was my idea.
Your idea.
So, you probably have to edit that out. You can bleep it out. I got a lawyer. This is where my luck really goes awry. But I got a lawyer, And he appeared to be very, very good. But I should have got him on contingency. I didn't. He asked for $5,000, so there was half of my check.
Oh.
Okay? But I said, I want to get these guys. And this guy was supposed to be a good lawyer in the industry. Anyway, we lost. We lost our appeals. We lost. And I appealed twice. I think it cost me $1,000 to appeal. So I spent $7,000. I had $3,000 net left out of the $10,000 that they gave me. The worst thing of all was I have a friend who was an attorney. He was doing something for me. I had him look up the lawyer. There's a legal program called LexisNexis. And you can go on there, you can find this stuff. The lawyer I got is the son of one of the founders of the toy company I was suing.
That sounds like a conflict of interest to me.
Let's go ahead now.
All right.
That's it. Here's probably the most significant thing that I didn't say. The first year, the very first year, I told you they paid me $10,000. I spent a lot of that back with an attorney. Under custom and practice in the toy industry, the creator of the toy should be getting 1% of gross sales. In the very first year, they sold $350 million of the wrestling action figures. Under that same precedent of 1%, I should have had $3.5 million. The next year was even better. So in total, at the very least, I should have made on that idea probably tops $10 million.
Big match at my house. I'll bring my guys. You have yours. I've got Junkyard Dog.
It's World Wrestling Federation Superstars.
I've got Brutus Beefcake. Here's George the Animal Steel. I've got Great Hammer Valentine. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
They're so real.
And Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Can you tell the difference? Wrestling Superstars, they're for real. Each sold separately from LJN.
So that's it.
Fast forward to the building we're sitting in now.
So, Head to Toe was closed because somebody had covered our action. The neighborhood was changing. A whole lot of things were happening. I always am a guy, I really don't plan a lot for. Being 86, I've seen an awful lot of people plan for tomorrow and their tomorrow never came. You always have to assume it's going to, but not to the point where you deprive yourself today of something that you could enjoy today. And I never have. I've always done what I wanted to do. The kids were never lacking for a vacation or for anything, really. For money, or, I'm not Ward Cleaver. I believe in really enjoying my life. My friend out in LA is exactly the same as I am. We've always enjoyed ourselves. But I said, holy crap. To be perfectly honest with you, when I was 62, I believe, I was down to paying my taxes with a credit card. It wasn't a good idea. Of course, taxes weren't big because when there's no income, there's no income tax. But it wasn't that good. So I was fortunate enough to get a job as a community outreach aide. And when I came here, Mike Sacamano, Mike, who was head of the nutrition, was kind enough to take me around. Susan Radke was actually head of the thing. Mike worked for Susan, and Mike took me around to the centers. But I noticed one thing. It really was sedentary. Everybody was playing dominoes, or they were playing euchre, or bingo was the mainstay of the whole thing. Well, these people are in here. There's all kinds of facility, room. Why aren't they exercising? And I went back to something I had read when I was still a teenager. Club 99, the 99 Club, was put out by Bernard McFadden. The same guy who made Charles Atlas, who designed the Atlas course, who promoted Charles Atlas, a friend of a lot of politicians. And I'm just going to interject something here now because it doesn't fit into the rest of the document. I'm making a documentary on McFadden. You know that.
I've read some of your stuff.
There he is standing with George Bernard Shaw. That's the kind of company that he keeps. And I talked to the commissioner of senior services. The guy's name was Paul Fitzpatrick. just the greatest guy in the world. And Paul was he was a football coach at Bishop Turner High School. And so he liked the idea. Yeah, seniors should be doing something. I convinced the poor guy to go out and buy resistance exercise bands. And we started going out to the places. And we put an alpha test site in, which was Schiller Park. My God, we had like 40 people. They were working out. And what we noticed, people coming through the doors was increasing. For the first time, but we called it Club 99. It was a longevity, fitness, wellness club. Because what happens is a lot of the older people, they start comparing themselves to their parents' lifespan at that age, you know what I mean? Oh, when my mother was sick, yeah, she had to have a walker. No, we're living longer, we're living better, and we got to get that message across to everybody. Club 99 did that, and that's how the whole thing started. And then when Pam Krauzak, in case Pam sees this, she's the one that made me a full-time employee and not an outreach aide. Thank you, Pam, for that. There's a little bit of the Club 99. There's a woman celebrating her 100th anniversary. There's two of my stars right there. One of them is Ann Constantino, who, by the way, is going to be 99 now. And Elmer, I can't say his last name, so I'm not going to mangle it, who is now 100, okay? Great people, part of my volunteer staff. Just, this is a great, really, a marvelous experience for me, being able to do this, because it works so well.
And you believe in it, and you live it.
I do live it. That's the Refresh magazine. You've probably seen that with the Sunday paper. They did an article on me, and on the Club 99. And if you see, there's two sets of pictures there. One, just to show how diverse the club is. The top picture, I believe, is the Urban League, and the bottom is the Lancaster Senior Center. Any given week, more than 1,000 people were walking through the doors of the senior centers to participate in Club 99. That was a success. Success got back to Albany. Although there's just some more, those were gerontology students. You see them, the girls holding up the T-shirts that Dr. Andrew Stahl brought in here. The one other corner is Native American. Some of the publicity that we were putting out. Dr. Zucker, who you see on TV now, talking about COVID, Howard Zucker, seemed to be a heck of a nice guy. He said, what the heck is this in Buffalo? He came here, and he looked at the Club 99, and we took him around the place and says, you know something, as far as I know, he says, this is the most successful, the longest lasting county-sponsored senior fitness wellness program in New York State. You know, they've replicated this even in the Carolinas. I was asked to come down by Lenore Ryan College. They've got the T-shirts down there. They've been to the senior centers down there. Niagara County's got Club 99. Tompkins County, I think if they still have it. Oneida County. So many have replicated what we have done here. And we've actually won national best practices from the Office of the Aging. So it's been very, very rewarding to me. When I first proposed the concept of a group exercise for seniors, so many people told me seniors don't care about that stuff. They want to sit around and they want to play cards or they want to play bingo. That was more than 20 years ago. And now today, here in Erie County, we have the longest running, most successful senior fitness program in all of New York State.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's been very good. So you can see I've done a few things.
Just a few.
Yeah, I'm going to do more.
Yeah. What are you looking forward to?
The documentary.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of things we've talked enough, and I'm not going to talk about it here. There's a lot of things that are happening that people don't even question. As far as medicine is concerned,
We'll have to do another interview when that's ready.
I would like that.
But I think we should give a shout out to Julie, especially
Oh,
during COVID.
I was going to mention.
Of course you were. I was just prepping you. That's
Oh,
my
okay.
job. I'm facilitating.
Oh, that's true. You are facilitating. Sometimes I need facilitating.
I know.
Yeah, what makes me happier, of course, you know, I retired. You know, I retired early though. Yeah, but I was only 85. But, I figured I got a lot of living to do. So, and when I broke in, Julie's there now, Judy Rosella, and we have another girl, Claire, and Julie, I was so happy that she took this, her enthusiasm for this equaled, if not surpassed, mine.
Mm-hmm.
And she's very, very keen on maintaining this program and even making it better. And you could see all the things that I've done, all the testimonials that I've received from so many people. People that have gone to physical therapy for 18 months and said, a couple of months at this class has served me better than physical therapy. And Julie is going to hold on to that, and she's going to make it better. And that's one of the most gratifying things that I have, honestly, that Julie Rosella is now going to run Club 99.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very, very happy about that. And of course, you know, the thing I guess I'm really happy about, and I know I'm going over, we're going way over. We'll talk about questions. You said, well, what makes you the happiest? So I'm asking my own question that you were going to ask me. I'm sorry that I didn't want to steal anything from you.
Never.
But we got to wrap this up. The main thing I really liked being was a husband and a father.
Mm-hmm.
Despite being the author and a wrestler and a singer and blah, 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 I really, really loved all the years the kids were growing up. My entire life centered around the kids. And now I'll be married 54 years, and
Mm-hmm.
it's everything's worked out good. And that's the most important thing for all of us.
Yeah.
Because there's some things in life that got to keep us grounded.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it. And I liked everything that happened so far. And I'm excited about what's going to happen in the future. And thank you so much for asking me. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Katie, you're wonderful.
You're wonderful, Richard. I appreciate you being vulnerable with us, sharing your story, and most importantly to Chuck Bannis, our producer, for this whole setup and giving us his time, so he deserves credit as well.
Boy, I'll say,
Yay, Chuck!
hey!
All right, I think we're done. Thank you.
As you just heard in this very, very long interview,
It's like Gone with the Wind.
yes, the wind is just about over. So, yes, I've been a professional wrestler. I have been a competitive bodybuilder. I've done some acting. I guess I've done a lot of things in my life, even an inventor.
And the longest interview on the show ever.
All right.
In the history of interviews.
So, but the most important thing to me has been being a father to my two great kids, a husband, and I think that those are the most important things that anybody can do, is to really be good for your own family. Right now, I'd like to thank Katie Earl. I'd like to thank the whole concept of University Express, but especially I'd like to thank you, the viewer, who has sat through this probably much too long interview. Thank you very much.